At the curb, a black trash bag full of dry leaves gets tied shut while a raised bed sits bare, cracking, and hot in the afternoon sun. That is the contradiction. Gardeners throw away the same material they later pay to replace, and the bill comes later as faster drying, more weeds, and weaker roots. By the end, you'll know how to turn that weekly yard waste into safe, useful mulch without making a soggy mat or bringing trouble into the bed. Every week, the yard quietly makes a kind of soil cover. Leaves fall. Grass gets cut. Spent stems dry down. Small plant scraps pile up along the fence, under shrubs, beside the mower, or inside a paper lawn bag. Then many gardeners haul that material away, drive to the store, and buy another bag of mulch to cover the same soil. The strange part is not that people buy mulch. Store-bought mulch can be useful. The strange part is that many gardens are already producing some of the cover they need, but it is leaving the property in trash bags. And the raised bed is the place where that mistake shows up fastest. A raised bed without cover may look tidy in the morning. The surface is clean. The rows are visible. Nothing is messy. But by mid-afternoon, the top inch can become hot, dry, and crusted. Water hits it and runs sideways. Tiny weed seedlings appear in open gaps. Tomato leaves droop even though the bed was watered the night before. That sounds like a water problem, but it often starts as a cover problem. Bare soil is exposed soil. It takes the full sun directly. It takes the full force of rain and hose water directly. It loses moisture from the surface faster. It crusts more easily. It gives weed seeds light and open space. And when that surface keeps swinging between wet and dry, the whole bed becomes harder to manage. The mistake is not simply failing to buy mulch. The mistake is letting the soil sit uncovered while throwing away material that could have protected it. The cheapest mulch is often the skin your yard already grew. That word matters. Skin. Mulch is not just decoration. In a working bed, mulch acts like a protective layer between the weather and the soil. It does not solve every soil problem. It does not replace compost. It does not feed plants like a complete fertilizer. But it changes the conditions at the surface, and the surface is where many backyard problems begin. When sun hits bare soil, the upper layer heats and dries first. When wind moves across it, moisture leaves faster. When hard rain hits it, fine particles can splash, compact, or seal into a crust. When weed seeds land on open soil, they get the light and space they need to start. A layer of organic mulch interrupts that pattern. It shades the surface. It softens the impact of watering. It slows the speed of drying. It creates a more stable boundary between the air and the root zone below. Over time, as that material breaks down, it can add organic matter back into the bed. That is why leaves and grass clippings are so easy to underestimate. They do not look like a garden product. They look like cleanup. A pile of dry leaves looks like fall work. A clump of grass from the mower looks like a chore. A bag of yard trimmings looks like something to remove before the place looks neat again. But the garden does not judge material by how clean it looks in a bag. It responds to what that material does on the soil. Dry leaves are usually the easiest place to start. Whole leaves can work, especially around larger plants and shrubs, but shredded leaves behave better in a vegetable bed. They settle more evenly. They are less likely to blow away. They make a looser, more breathable layer. If you can run over them once with a mower, crumble them by hand, or store them until they break down a little, they become easier to use. On a bare raised bed, a layer of shredded dry leaves can help protect the surface without sealing it. Around established plants, the goal is usually enough cover that you no longer see much bare soil, but not so much that stems are buried and air is trapped against the crown of the plant. That last detail matters. Mulch belongs on soil. It should not be packed tightly against stems. A tomato stem, a pepper stem, a basil crown, or a young lettuce transplant does not need a wet collar pressed against it. Leave a small open ring around the base of plants. Let the mulch protect the bed, not smother the plant. Grass clippings are different. Grass is rich, soft, and quick to break down. That makes it useful, but it also makes it easy to misuse. Fresh grass clippings dumped in a thick pile can mat together. Once they mat, they can block air and water instead of helping them move. They may turn slimy, heat up, smell sour, and create exactly the kind of messy layer that makes people swear off free mulch forever. This is where most gardeners get misled. The problem is not grass clippings. The problem is wet grass clippings used like bark mulch. Grass should be treated more like a thin ingredient than a thick blanket. Let it dry first when you can. Spread it in light layers. Mix it with dry leaves if you have them. If it clumps in your hand like a wet sponge, it is not ready to become a thick layer around vegetables. A good backyard rule is simple. Dry and fluffy is safer than wet and packed. If you want to use grass around a raised bed, start modestly. Let the clippings wilt or dry for a day if the weather allows. Sprinkle a thin layer over the soil rather than dumping heavy piles. If you need more coverage, add dry leaves with it. The leaves keep the layer more open. The grass adds quick breakdown. Together, they behave better than either one used carelessly. The fix is not to throw everything on the bed. The fix is to stop seeing yard waste as one material. Leaves are carbon-heavy, dry, airy cover. Grass is greener, wetter, faster material. Spent plant stems can be useful if they are clean, chopped, and not diseased. Small, dry trimmings can help create texture. Seed heads, diseased foliage, and chemically treated clippings are different. Those do not belong in the same category. Free mulch is only free if you use it in the right condition. That is the skeptical part, and it is worth saying plainly. Not every bag from the yard should go straight onto the vegetable bed. Do not use grass clippings from a lawn that was recently treated with herbicide. Sensitive garden plants can be damaged by residues from certain lawn weed killers. If you do not know what was sprayed, do not use those clippings around food crops or delicate plants. Do not use weeds loaded with mature seed heads unless you are willing to deal with the seedlings later. A mulch layer that plants next month's weed problem is not a bargain. Do not use diseased tomato leaves, mildewed squash vines, or suspicious plant debris as a fresh surface mulch in a vegetable bed. Some disease problems survive on plant residue long enough to matter. When in doubt, keep questionable material out of the bed. And do not bury small seedlings under a heavy blanket. Newly planted seeds need light conditions, warmth, and contact with soil depending on the crop. Tiny seedlings need space to breathe. Mulch is best pulled close after plants are established enough to stand above it, or used carefully between rows before it touches the plants. Once you see those limits, the method becomes simple. First, look at what your yard gives you every week. Dry leaves, mower clippings, clean plant trimmings, straw-like stems from healthy plants, small bits from pruning. Do not think of them as trash yet. Sort them by behavior. Dry and brown materials are your structure. Green and wet materials are your fast breakdown. Questionable materials are not mulch. Second, prepare the material before it reaches the bed. Shred leaves if you can. Let grass clippings dry or at least wilt. Chop long stems so they do not create a tangled mat. Keep a separate pile or bin for material you are unsure about. Third, water the bed before you mulch if the soil is already dry. Mulch slows drying, but it is not magic. If you put a protective layer over bone-dry soil and never water deeply, the root zone may still be thirsty underneath. Cover helps hold moisture more steadily after the bed has received it. Fourth, apply the layer according to the material. With shredded leaves, use enough to shade the soil while still letting water pass through. Around established vegetables, that often looks like a loose layer a couple of inches deep, kept away from stems. With grass clippings, start thinner. A light layer that dries and disappears can be renewed. A thick wet mat can become a problem. Fifth, check the mulch after watering or rain. This is the field test most people skip. Lift the layer with 2 fingers. The soil underneath should feel cooler and more evenly moist than the exposed path nearby. The mulch itself should not smell sour. It should not be sealed into a slippery sheet. Water should be able to move through it. If the top looks covered but the soil underneath is dry, the layer may be too matted, too thick, or shedding water. Loosen it. Mix in dry leaves. Pull it back and water deeply. That one test teaches more than any bag label. A good mulch layer is not judged by how pretty it looks from 6 feet away. It is judged by what is happening under it. If the soil beneath is cooler, less crusted, easier to scratch with a finger, and slower to dry out, the layer is doing its job. If weeds are fewer and easier to pull, that is another sign. If water no longer splashes soil up onto lower leaves as aggressively, that is another benefit. If you can water and the bed stays workable longer into the afternoon, the system is improving. But if the mulch is slimy, sour, full of seed heads, pressed against stems, or blocking water, it needs correction. That is why the best free mulch is not just found. It is managed. There is a difference between spreading yard waste and building a soil cover. Spreading yard waste is dumping whatever you collected wherever there is open space. Building a soil cover is choosing the right material, in the right condition, at the right thickness, for the bed in front of you. A raised bed with peppers in summer may need a different touch than a bed of newly seeded carrots. A tomato bed with established plants can handle more cover between plants than a tray of tiny lettuce seedlings. A dry, windy garden may benefit from a steadier leaf layer. A wet, humid garden may need thinner mulch and more airflow around stems. The method bends to the bed. If your bed is already planted, do not rip everything up to add mulch. Wait until seedlings are tall enough to clear the layer. Then slide dry leaves or a leaf and grass mix between rows by hand. Keep the material loose. Leave breathing room around stems. Water deeply, then cover. Come back the next day and lift the layer to see what changed. If your bed is empty between crops, that is the easiest. Time. Cover the exposed soil instead of leaving it bare for weeks. A loose blanket of dry leaves can protect the surface until the next planting. Before sowing tiny seeds, pull the mulch aside, plant into the soil, and bring the cover back only after the seedlings can handle it. If you have too many leaves, store them. A bag of dry leaves with holes poked in it is not waste. It is future mulch. A pile in the corner of the yard can become leaf mold over time. Even partly broken down leaves are useful because they settle into a softer, darker material that is easier to place around plants. This is where the money part becomes obvious. The garden center bag is not always the enemy. Sometimes you need a consistent product. Sometimes you need a specific look. Sometimes wood chips, straw, compost, or another mulch makes more sense. But buying mulch while sending away clean dry leaves and safe clippings every week is like buying water while pouring a bucket down the driveway. The resource was already moving through your yard. You just had to stop it at the soil. A clean bare bed can look responsible. It can look finished. It can look easier to manage. But a bed that is always bare is also always exposed. It asks more from you. More watering. More weeding. More rescue. More effort to calm the same swings that cover could have softened. A covered bed behaves differently. Not perfectly. Not magically. But often more steadily. The surface does not bake as quickly. The soil does not crust as easily. The weeds do not get the same open invitation. Water has a better chance to stay where roots can use it. And the little scraps that once left the property begin to cycle back into the place that grew them. That is the turn. The trash of the yard can become the skin of the soil. Not all of it. Not without sorting. Not in thick, wet piles. Not when chemicals, seed heads, or disease are part of the story. But the clean, dry, safe portion of what your yard sheds every week can become one of the most practical covers you have. The next time that black bag fills with leaves, do not see only cleanup. See the raised bed in July. See the bare surface under the afternoon sun. See the watering can returning again and again because the soil has no cover. Then see that same bag differently. It may not be trash waiting for the curb. It may be the mulch your garden already made. The cheapest mulch is often the one your yard tried to give you first.